which I imagine had something to do with crossing paths with the book, maybe. Is there something that was in your vision for it that is still exactly here in the movie, unchanged, an inspiration that stayed with you the whole time? It could be a feeling, it could be an image, it could be a conviction you brought to it. And is there something else that actually arrived as a surprise to you because of your collaborators or because of all the accidents that come in filmmaking that changed and you're just as proud of that? Something that stayed the same, something that surprised you?
That's a great question. I mean, funny enough, it sounds like I'm just trying to be kind of dirty-minded, but the
Feel free, save space.
I remember when I read the book, like a photograph came into my head, of Wolfgang Tillmann's photograph, where it's like upskirting a guy in a kilt, and he's got Prince Albert, and I do remember being like attached to this idea of a Prince Albert, being like, you know, if I make this film, I want to see a Prince Albert at some point.
Representation matters. We've heard that before.
That was the only essential thing, and then something which changed. Well, you know, we might speak about this more, but like the book is very different. Cover your ears if you don't want spoilers, if you're going to read the book. But you know, like Ray dies halfway through the book in a motorcycle accident, and so the whole adaptation process became for me. You know, I knew I didn't want Ray to die. I wanted Colin to have some like agency in starting to push up against Ray's relationship model, and that to be what caused the relationship to no longer function. And so a lot of like what we developed was around that area, and you know, the day off sequence, that was something which we only kind of arrived at, I think, you know, a couple of months before we shot, and so a lot of that sequence was about discovering the tone of it on the day, and kind of trying to work out how to play the kind of romantic fantasy of it.
Uh-huh. And Harry Melling, similar question. I should say every actor I've ever met has shared with me the same upset, that even when they're building exciting, interesting, surprising careers as you have done, they say, why has nobody yet thought of me to play the sexual and life servant of Alexander Skarsgård? Like, what's going on? Are my agents not asking? Like, do I need to write him myself? So you finally got the call. As you're reading the script for the first time, can you remember, I'm sure there were many, but do moments stick out where the character and the character's choices surprised you? Or the decisions of the script not going where you had thought it might be going on a first read that really got your attention?
Yeah, when you get sent a script, you get a little blurb, which is something like, this is Pillion, it's by Harry Lighton, there's a little blurb, and I remember the blurb was something like, a gay BDSM biker gang movie. So I kind of knew where it was going. But having said that, when I started to read it and you're introduced to the barbershop quartet, I'm like, okay, let's stick with this. And then of course you sort of are introduced to Colin and this character who maybe hasn't quite happened yet. And you then are introduced to Ray, and you see them for different reasons, both being intrigued by the other person. And then you get to the alleyway scene. And when I started doing the alleyway scene, I just, in my head, went, I'm in. Because there was something about what Harry was doing with the tone that was so exciting for me. Something that was embracing an audience in, but at the same time not being scared to sort of, you know, go to the more shocking areas for some people, I'm sure, with a guy giving a really bad blowjob, and those sort of things working at the same time, simultaneously, is what made me so excited to jump at this opportunity.
And staying with you for a second, I'm also thinking about the mood you were already in before Ray shows up in it. It's only maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but I feel like a lot of versions of this story would have wanted us to relate to your character as a sad sack, or would have wanted to really sell us on this diamond in the rough who Ray's going to be lucky to get. And I feel like, as in many ways, this movie never tells you what to think about these characters. It never tells you what to think about the story. Were there things that were important to you to protect about Colin, or to keep ambiguous, that on another project you might have been asked to spell out, or things that you found yourself wrestling with about Colin?
100%. I think with a different director, I think my job with a part like Colin would be protecting so many facets of him that would have been too easy to sort of define from an early, from the early storytelling point in terms of his story. So, for example, like asking the audience to feel sorry for him at the beginning of the movie would be really problematic, I think, in terms of understanding his journey. The reason why Colin maybe has not arrived in a place has got nothing to do with some sort of tortured environment that he lives in. He has so much support from his parents, almost too much support, I would argue. It's got nothing to do with that. It's something in himself. He hasn't quite locked into something